Hello and welcome to the session. Let's continue our discussion for subsequent topics. So now we'll start with access modifiers. So access modifiers are basically used to selective access or give control to the selective content of your class to the outside world. So it specifies the accessibility or scope of a variable, method, constructor, or a class. Types of access modifiers and their accessibility. Public means if you have a public access modifier for a variable, for a method, for a constructor or a class, that means those declarations are visible everywhere. So those declarations are visible inside the subclass, inside other class in the same package, inside other class in other package. So this is all about the accessibility or visibility of the uh, particular entity. This will be more clear when we see with an example. So let's see this example. So I have this package, let's say package 15, and here I have this class called as basic model. And here, if you see, I have specified all the things as public. So access modifier here is public. That means that the content is visible or the declaration is visible everywhere. Let us see how it is there. So if you see car BMW, now using public elements in other class, but same package. So this and this both classes are in the same package. So this is allowed using public elements in other classes, but the same package in car BMW, it is allowed, and it is allowing to create an object, and it is allowing to use the variables and methods. Now same thing here, if you see car Ford, now using the public elements in other classes, but same package, but using extends keyword. Okay, so this is using extends keyword. So this is also possible. In this way, you can create an object and you can access the variable and you can call the method. Let's just run it and see what is happening. Right, so it is able to create an object, it is able to refer to variable and call the methods. Now let us see this one aeroplane example. So there is a file name called as aeroplane.java, and here if you see there are two classes. So this is basically the main class and this is the inner class or subclass, you can say this is the subclass. So using public elements in the same class. So what I'm doing, I'm using the public elements of this subclass into this main class. So this is allowed. I can create an object and I can refer to the variables and I can call the methods. Let's just run it to confirm the same understanding. Okay, it is allowing to do that. Now let us see this example demo. Now demo class is basically inside a sub package. If you see, this is a sub package. Now in the demo class, what I'm doing, I'm trying to access and create an object of a class which is in another package. So using public elements in other class and other package. This is allowed. You have to use this import statement. This is allowed. You can go ahead and create an object, start referring to the content. This is allowed. So this is all about public access modifier. And now let's move on to the next one, that is protected. So what is protected? Protected declarations are visible within the package or sub packages or subclasses. Now this is where the restriction starts coming. So this is where you can give selective access. So that means declarations are visible within the package or all subclasses, but not outside the package, right? So now that is one way of protecting the content. Let us see. Now access modifier protected. So again, I have car basic model. If you see, the content is protected. Okay, the variable and methods are protected. Now let us see car BMW. So here using protected elements in other class but same package. So we have seen this is allowed. You can create an object and you can start using the variables and call the methods. Car Ford example, here exactly the same thing but using extends keyword. So this is also allowed. Let us just run it. Okay, using extends keyword. So this is possible. Now let's see the aeroplane example. Here it is basically subclass. So I have this class base aeroplane basic model where the content is protected. Now I can use it in the same class which is in the same file. So this is allowed if it is the protected content. Now similarly, let's see what happens to the other package example, right? So I have imported that car basic model, car basic model, car basic model class is in the same, it is in for this class. For this class, car basic model is in the other package, okay, because this is the sub package. So using protected elements in other class and other package, okay, it is not possible. So let us see what is happening. The moment I uncomment this, okay, it is saying that car basic model has protected access in another package. So this is not allowed if it is a protected content. So this is where the restriction starts coming up, because you have restricted the access of this content in other packages. So that can be done using protected. Let's move on to the next one called as default. What is default? So default is again one more level of restriction. Declarations are visible only within the package, okay, not even in subclasses. So there's one more restriction here. What is default? So default is something special. So if you want to write public protected, you have to write it explicitly. But if you don't write anything, it becomes default. Okay, let us see an example. So car basic model. If you see here, I have not mentioned any default or anything like that. Okay, I have not mentioned anything. So if you don't mention anything, it becomes default. Okay, so default, again, let us see what is happening. So using default elements in other class but same package. So using the default elements from other class but same package. Okay, same package. This is allowed. You can create an object and you can start accessing the variables and methods. Let's just run it once, right? It is allowing. Now let us see car Ford. So car Ford is the same thing here. It is using extends keyword. So this is also allowed because it is using default elements in the other package but same other class but same package. This is allowed. Let's see similar example for aeroplane. So aeroplane again, aeroplane and aeroplane basic model. Since it is a default here, nothing is mentioned here, but it is in the same class. So this is allowed, and this you can run also. Now other package example, domain demo. So I have imported this car basic model here. I have to write an import statement. Now using default elements in other classes and other package. This is not possible. Why? Because the access modifier is default. That means other class and other package content visibility is not possible. If you want to see, let's uncomment this and see what it is saying. Car basic model is not public in this, cannot be accessed from outside the package. That is why that is the restriction with default. Let's see the private one, and this one is basically the maximum restrictions are there for private access modifier. So what is a private? Private is declarations are visible within the within the class only, nowhere else. Okay, not even in other class, not even in other package. It is within the class only. Let us see an example. Now I have this car basic model. Okay, so here if you see the content is private, the contents are private. Now I am using car BMW here, using private elements in other classes but the same package. Okay, using private elements in other classes but same package is not possible. Why? Because it is in other class itself. So whenever you say private, the restriction is the maximum restriction. It is not allowed to expose to outside world. Okay, let us see. The moment I uncomment this, it is saying car basic model has private access. So private access is not accessible outside the class. Okay, so that's why it is not allowing. Same thing for car Ford. Okay, here if you see, this is using extends keyword. Let's just uncomment it for a second. Okay, so the moment I extend private thing, what is happening? It is saying there is no default constructor available. That is why it is not allowing. But as we discussed, it is a private content. So using extends or using this other technique, using this technique, everything is not allowed since it is a private thing. Okay, since it is a private thing. Let's just move it back to this original position. Okay, aeroplane example, if you see aeroplane basic model, it's a private. So using private element in the same class, not possible. Okay, so whether now aeroplane basic model is basically a subclass, but since there is private content, this is not allowed. Let's just uncomment this. What it is saying, has a private access. Aeroplane basic model constructor has a private access in this particular class and package. So this is also not allowed. So if you can see, private has the maximum restrictions, and that is why many projects or many systems, they prefer to use private instead of going for public. Okay, let's see this other example, the demo. So demo is absolutely not possible because this is totally different package and different class. Okay, using private elements in other classes and other package, it is absolutely not allowed. Let's just uncomment it, right? So it is giving a compilation error. So this is even not allowed. So we have seen public, protected, default, and private access modifier. Okay, just to mention, we have already seen the static and final. Those are called as non-access modifier. Okay, in short, this is the chart, if you can refer. So public declarations are accessible everywhere. If you see everywhere, the moment you go to the private, from public to private, the restrictions will start keeping applying. So protected means not available to the world. No modifier, that is the default one. Their subclass and outside the package not allowed. Private means only within the same class, nowhere else. Okay, this is basically a chart. Now, being said that, so private is mostly used in singleton design pattern, where only single instance of the class is to be created. So singleton design pattern is very interesting. We might discuss in the subsequent topics. So there mostly we use this private access modifier, so that we want only one instance of a particular class to be created throughout the project, and it has its own advantages. Okay, so this is all about access modifier. Let's move on to the encapsulation, which is a relevant topic. So what is encapsulation? Before going for a theoretical discussion, let's understand through these images. So encapsulation is basically encapsulating your data or content in some kind of a wrapper. Or what you do is you hide the data and you give selective access to the data to the outside world. A simple example is like you go to the bank teller and you ask for some money. So the money is kept in a secret vault, in a separate vault. It is secret, and you provide user your credentials or you provide your ID, and then only you will get the access to the data. You will be able to withdraw the money. Same thing here. You go to a garage and then you tell your mechanic that there's a problem. So the mechanic uh, will try to solve the problem, will try to repair the vehicle, but it is encapsulated. So you give your credential, you give your information, and the mechanic will do the remaining thing. Same thing here. If you see uh, computer operated car, so you tell the car that this is the start location and the end location, so you just have to drive and you have to sit and relax. So everything is encapsulated, you just have to watch it. Okay, so a similar analogy. So let's see encapsulation, the action of enclosing something in it is encapsulation. Similar, having a protective shield for a proprietary content. So as we have seen the bank teller example, so the things are proprietary, it is safe. You just have to, you are authorized and you are the correct person to have the access to that particular resource. So then only you will be there will be, you will be given access, otherwise it's a protective shield. In other words, hiding the data members and methods from outside the world in by using private keywords. So this is the advantage using private access modifier or private keyword, so that you make the content as private and you give selective or access based on some kind of a credentials to the user. Okay, it is, in other words, also it is called as data hiding. So you hide some specific content, data, algorithm, some kind of a method implementation. Now why it is required? As I said, for business purpose, for security purpose, it is required. So that is why we do encapsulation. Now how can how can I give the how can I apply the protective shield, or how can I give access to the outside world, selective access. That is done using getter setter methods. Let's see with an example. Okay, so if you see, I have this payroll processing department. Let's see this payroll processing class. So payroll processing class and department cells, so both are in the same package. Now if you see, payroll processing has some private content. Okay, private entities like salary, employee ID, and allowance, and it has certain public method to set salary and get salary, process salary and calculate salary. So these are the public methods. Now this is a private method. So what you say, just call the public process salary. Now this class has some way of calculating the payroll or your salary of the employee, and this should not be exposed to the outside world because there could be, security breaches and all. So what is done is the sensitive content, sensitive methods, sensitive variables are kept as private. Okay, that's why these are private. This is a private method, and other things are set as public. So if the sales department want to do payroll processing, what that class has to do is they have to create an object, they have to set salary, they have to use this set method. So that is why we are using a method called as set and get. So this is called as a getter setter methods. So using getter setter methods, you are providing access to the outside world. Okay, so you are providing access to the outside world, the private content. So that is how you do, you pass on the salary, and this will set the internal variable. Now get salary will return you the actual salary. Now let's proceed and see what is happening. So set salary, then process salary. So I have to provide employee ID, designation, basic salary and allowance. Now what is happening in the process salary? In the process salary, it is taking the arguments, and what is happening here is it is basically checking if the employee is from the sales department. So employee ID is basically sales underscore xxx. So if it is not, then it is saying invalid employee ID, and it is returning the salary as 0. Okay, and based on there's some criteria like based on the designation, the salary and the extra allowance will be added. So now this basically your secretive way of calculating the salary. Let's take an example. So manager has extra allowance, let's say 2000, senior associate, junior associate, and so on. Now here it is basically calculating the salary. So if you see, calculate salary is basically the private method. So you're not allowing calculate salary method open access, you are making it as private. Okay, there could be some logic here that it is processing the salary and divide by 100 and so on. So it is adding the extra allowance and some other stuff. Now this may differ from country to country, company to company, year by year. So everything is separate. So that is why it is uh, private. Now here let's see what is happening. So I'm processing the salary. So here I'm processing for sales and marketing. So the moment I process the salary for marketing employee, this is not allowed because it is department of sales here. Now you might ask that I am getter setter methods. So you I'm giving directly access to the outside world to set the salary and return the salary. Okay, so let us see what I will do. I will say string user and string password. Now what is happening here is, what I will do, if user dot equals, let's say I will make it as admin, and I will say your password dot equals, and I will say, let's say ADM admin 123. Then only you process the salary, else you set this dot salary equal to 0. Okay, now this is where the controlled access comes into picture. Now what I do, to the selected or authorized user, I will pass on the username and password. Okay, so here if you see, I have to pass the username and password. So I'm passing, let's say admin and I'm passing the password as admin123. Right, so for this particular method, for this particular employee, the salary will be processed. For others, salary will not be processed. Okay, for example, here I am saying salary equal to, let's say, -1. Okay, so same thing I will apply here. So let's say this is a valid case. So here I am saying, instead of admin, I will say user, and our password, let it be user123. Now this is where the, and this one also. Okay, now this is where the controlled access comes into picture. This is where the encapsulation is basically important. So I'm giving selective access to the particular methods to the outside world, those who are, let's say, having correct username and password. So that is where the salary will be processed. For other cases, salary will not be processed. So this is all about encapsulation. You can run this separately and you can see the output that it will show that salary will be processed for so and so employee and will not be processed for so and so employee. First thing is, for marketing employee, salary will not be processed, and for the correct employee but with invalid username password, it will not be processed. Yeah, so as I said, remaining access modifier can also be used, so except the public one. So you can, so it's not mandatory to use protected always. You can go for default, you can go for protected anyway. You can accept public, you can go for anything, any other three, because every modifier has its own advantages. So same class, same package, different class, different package, and so on. So based on whatever is your requirement, you go for the particular choice. Okay, so same example in a graphical format. So department, you have sales, marketing, engineering. So you can set salary, process salary, get salary, and payroll processing is basically kind of a private or selective access. So calculate salary is a private one, and basically using this and the credential mechanism as I discussed, you can control what has to be processed, who can process, and so on. Right. So let's continue discussion for polymorphism in the subsequent topics. Thank you.